Shieldice Studios launched its latest Kickstarter, and I was sent a preview copy of the Overland Oracle. And we're going to go over it in this video. So let's get started. Welcome to Solitary RPG. Jay over at Shieldice Studios sent me a preview copy of the Overland Oracle deck. This is one part of a recent Kickstarter that Shieldice Studios launched. I'm going to put a link in the video description to the Kickstarter if this is something you're interested in. What we're going to do in this video is I'm going to show you the contents of the deck, how it works, and do a very light sample of using the product. So let me get set up. The Overland Oracle deck is a tarot-sized card mapping system. So you're going to lay out the cards, and that's going to create your Overland map. Each one of the cards is going to give you a prominent location. You might also get some additional smaller locations on the cards. You'll get some prompt words, some resources, and a cool little system for generating quests. You'll also get an instruction card on how to use the system, iconography card or reference card reminding you of what the images are on the mapping card. You'll also get these oracle tools, makes up like a little toolbox. These are just tables that you can roll on to help give you some additional information. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go over the oracle tools, then I'll go over the anatomy of the cards. I'm going to set up a small spread, and we'll just do a few moves on the map, just showing you kind of how the system actually works. So let me get set up. The first card I want to share is how to use the deck. These are the instructions you need for basically setting up your map and starting your adventure. On the back of this is the iconography, which explains everything that's on the mapping cards, and we'll go over that separately. What I want to start with is the oracle tools. These are just going to be small tables that you can roll on to help you with your adventure. The green one focuses a lot on travel. So we have a D10 for weather, a D4 for road danger, D4 for road types, and a D12 for the time of day when your adventure's starting or when maybe something happens. On this side you have directions, and you have two different type of direction tables. You have a D4 for ahead of you, behind you, left and right. And then you have like a compass, and you can just roll a D8, and it just gives you some additional directions you can travel or where maybe something's located, things like that. You have a D4 for how you're going to traverse the terrain, a D4 for terrain type. Then you have some real simple instructions here on dealing with rations. Basically every day you're going to use a ration up, and when you reach 0, things start going sideways. So the green one deals with traveling. The red one focuses on campsites. So you have a D10 for nearby resources when you're setting up your camp. The night sky, so what's the condition of the night. Camp in position, so this is more like, did you find an open area where you're vulnerable, or did you find a little fortified spot where you can have more of a defensive position. Camp floor, so what's the ground like that you're camping on. D4 camp items, and you can use this for maybe items you don't have when you're camping, items that you do have, maybe rolling up and when you go shopping and you can find some camping items. You can use the camp items for a variety of different things. Nearby shelters, so this is just kind of the terrain where you're going to set up your camp. Tent type, do you have a tent? What type of tent do you have? How was your sleep at night? What kind of fuel do you have in the area for starting a campfire? And are there any encounters? The question one's really cool. These are all D4 charts, and they are questions that you would ask an oracle to get a yes/no response. And you have traveling on the road, traveling in the wild, traveling in the city, man-made landmarks, natural landmarks, and prominent locations. And you would just simply roll on this chart to get a question, and then you would ask your oracle the yes no result. Very unique way of handling oracle questions, kind of having pre-programmed questions. I just think this is a really cool card. The last one deals with dialogue. This is basically the behaviors of NPCs in your games. So when you ask for information, how do they respond to you? When you greet an NPC, when you're trying to intimidate an NPC, you have some results here. How an NPC approaches, you overheard an NPC, and you're being entertained by an NPC, and how are they entertaining you? So these are just tools that you can use when you're playing your game, just like any tables and charts that we use as outside resources for our games. It's just nice that it's included in the deck. The next thing I want to go over is the anatomy of the cards. You got this list of icons here, and it gives you a brief description of what they mean. The first one here is the little circle with the 1 in it. This represents the card color and number. So all these cards are numbered for the different colors, and it is a logging system. So that way, when you set up your spread and if your game gets interrupted, you can write down all the information, and then you can come back to it later and you don't have to remember how the cards were set up. It's got a built-in logging system, which is really cool. The next one deals with the prompt words and these dotted lines and arrows in between these brackets right here. So the prompt words help you describe the area that you're in. And when you have your cards laid out, and these prompt words will help you spark your imagination to help better describe the areas that you're going in. So we got a dappled stall, and we're at the market, so we can use that to describe one of the stalls in the market. And that's how these little dotted lines and arrows connect. You can also just use the prompt words to help describe other things in the area. You're not limited just between the dotted lines. Remember, this is a tool, and you use tools however they work for you. But this is the concept behind it, is when things are linked up, that creates your spark words, kind of like rolling on a table and getting two different words. The next thing are the images in the corners. These represent the resources most likely found in this area. So we're in a grove, and we have a sword, and we have, I don't quite know what that might be. It looks like a metal ring with some wood. It could be a shield, or it could be a barrel of some sort. You're just using the images to spark your imagination, so they can be whatever you want. There's nothing specifically telling you what they are. I do know that the Kickstarter is going to come along with a digital book that will give us additional information, and maybe Jay will go in and break down what these images are, just so that we get more familiar with them. So when we're playing with the cards, we can easily just see the images, know exactly what they are to help prompt us with our games. But that's what the colored images are on the card, is to just tell you what kind of resources are available in the grove. So that's really cool. Next one are the quest icons, and those are just the white images and letters in the boxes on the side. And the way that will work, we'll pull that card out again. Your quest A would be dealing with what looks like to me gold bars and maybe diamonds, so dealing with money. So your quest could be to go to the market to sell something, or to retrieve maybe a debt owed. So you would make up what that quest is. No information on what the images exactly are. This is prompts for you to use your imagination to come up with what those prompts are. So quest A would be that. Quest B, so you go from A to the image. Here you'd go B to the image. Another quest could be that you got an axe and you're in the grove. So Maybe your quest is to go cut down a certain tree in the grove. Maybe it's a tree that is used for evil, like people practice evil rituals at this tree, and your quest is to go cut down the tree. Whatever the images mean to you is what you will generate based on the information that you have. You can also use your word prompts here for one of your quests. So for this particular quest A, we got to go to a certain stall and maybe retrieve a debt that's owed. So that is how the quest prompts are used for this deck. The images here are these shields, and they will have either a helmet or a shield on them. What those represent are other locations. So you have your prominent location, which is the grove, and then you have smaller locations that you can also visit. The helm is a man-made location, and the shield with the eagle crest in it is a natural made location you can go visit. So we're in the grove, and we have two natural spots that we can go to for additional adventure sites. In addition to that is you got the dotted lines to represent roads that you are traveling to all the different locations. The last image on the cards are the skulls and helmets. These represent population. So in the market, we have a skull, which means there's going to be a lot of people in the market area, which makes sense. So we have a heavy population. But out here in the groves, we have a skull, so there's less population. So there's going to be less people in this area. So your chances of running across an NPC or an encounter with a person are going to be reduced. So that covers the Oracle tools and the anatomy of the card. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to set up my map just following the basic instructions. It's just basically shuffle up the deck, lay them down however you feel, and you can use a token or coin or something like that to represent where your PCs are at on the map. So let me get set up. I got my cards. I'm going to give them a quick shuffle and a cut, and then we'll start laying them out. So when you start laying out your cards, if one of your cards comes out upside down, the mechanics will still work. Everything will still work. You'll still get your prompts for your quests. Your words will still link up. Visually, though, you may not enjoy looking at cards upside down. It's up to you if you want to flip them around and make everything easier on your eyes to see and read. That is really an option up to you, but for this video, I am going to leave everything right side up just so that when you're seeing it on the screen, it is more visually appealing. So we have 4 different card color types, and the colors kind of represent the area in general. So you do have red cards, which are going to be more working locations. Like here we got a windmill and a stronghold. You're going to have green cards, which are going to be more natural locations, such here as a volcano or a cliff top. You're going to have blue cards, which are going to be more kingdom cards. So here we got a cathedral, you might get a castle, things like that. And then you have your purple cards, which are just dark locations. You'll find things like cemeteries and locations like that for the purple cards, just giving you a variety of different things in your spread. I'm just doing a 6-card spread here. I don't want to get too carried away, and I want to keep it on camera. So it's talked about having some sort of a token or something to represent where you are on the map. I'm just going to use Jon Snow here. This is from Tiny Epic Game of Thrones. I really like these miniatures for gaming because they're smaller. They're not the big 32 or 25 millimeter. These are 18 to 20 millimeter. And how I've been using it is the number of cards that I lay out. I find a dice type that would match it. I roll it, and whatever it rolls on is where my starting location is. It just works for me. You can also keep these cards face down and then reveal them as you go. I just like to have them up. It makes my map. Once I get started, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to log my cards in a notebook or on a piece of paper just to make life a little bit easier in case I get interrupted. And the way you log those is you just start from one corner. So we're going to be top left, and we're going to write red 13A. And this is kind of like the key for this particular system. And then it's going to be linked to purple 14. And then you would draw the image of whatever is there. So that way you know what card it is and how it's facing. So now those are linked together. Then we'd link the next card to it, which is going to be red 17. And it's going to be, to me, that looks like a shield, but it also looks like bricks. So maybe that's a castle of some sort. And you would just link everything together. And then you would just go bottom, left, and you would just do the same thing. We got green for A, linked to blue 12. It looks like a fist of some sort with lightning coming out of the side of it. And then we got green 3, and looks like some sort of rock. And you're just writing this out as a log, so that way if your game gets interrupted and you have to pick up, put everything away, you know exactly how to redo this spread so you can just continue your game. Really good stuff. So here we're in the cliff top. We have honey, and this looks like a shield with some spikes on it. So maybe, it's supposed to be for a resource. So maybe there's some armor we can get in this area off the cliff top. Or maybe there's some enemies in this area, and if we defeat those enemies, we can get some additional resources of armor, things like that. We have divine boulder connecting these two, which is kind of interesting. I can use that to help generate this quest because that looks like a rock. So maybe quest A is going to be something to do with a divine boulder. So maybe there's a special place of prayer in the area that I can go to for meeting somebody or getting some additional information, things like that. The other quest we have linked up is B and a bell. Maybe I need to get to the cathedral to stop a wedding. Now that could be a fun little quest. Maybe the woman I love is going to marry the evil king and I need to go stop the wedding. So now we have our quest. So I'm kind of digging that. That could be kind of a fun little adventure. So let's go with that. So we're in a low population area. You're also going to notice the dotted lines on the cards. That's a suggested path that you can travel to go to the different sites on the cards. But this isn't a hex grid. You're going to have to make those decisions on how long it's going to take you to travel to those locations. A little theater of the mind here, but not really hard for us that play solo. We're pretty used to it. One of the things I've been doing is I just roll a dice, and that's how many days it's going to take me to get to the location that I'm going to. I'm going to go to the Divine Boulder first, and that's where I'm going to find my information about the love of my life getting married. Maybe I'm going to go pray and I have a vision, something like that. And I'm going to make that a natural. So I have a natural location. I also have a man-made location here. I'm going to make that the natural location. I would just roll my D6. It's going to take me 3 days to get there. So if we go to our travel card, we can roll up on these charts to determine how we're going to get there. Am I on foot? Am I on horse? I'm not going to boat or swim. I might have to climb though, because we are on a cliff top, so we're going to do some climbing to get there. So we're going to have some agility rolls. You would use whatever system you feel best for this. And I'll need to get some rations before I get started. And if I really want to get those details, I can go for the time of day. What's the trail like? Are there going to be any dangers? And what's the weather like? Just so it helps me bring that story to life. But we would just travel down here. We would have some encounters. We can ask a general oracle question. Are there any delays in my travel or any complications in my travel? Yes, and so that's going to tell me I'm going to have some sort of a delay in my travel. There's going to be a complication and it's going to maybe cost me some time, or it could be a combat situation. Maybe I get raided by some bandits. That's the joy of this system. It's giving you the tools and the inspiration to bring your game to life. And I've just been using my little miniature here to just move them around the board, just like a board game. You would just continue using the cards in that manner, just setting things up and unfolding your adventure as you go. So that's how the system works. You lay out your cards, you're using the information on the cards to help generate your locations, your quests. You're getting prompt words and resources that you can pull from. You know the population of your areas simply by looking at the cards. You can use the oracle tools to help with the adventure as you're playing. And just because your prominent location here is a windmill doesn't mean it's just a windmill out in the middle of nowheres. You can add additional information to this prominent location. Maybe it's a windmill attached to a farm, or there's a small village there, and you can get that additional information. But your quest might be taking you to the windmill to accomplish whatever you are trying to accomplish. Same thing, like the mansion. Would it just be a mansion out in the middle of the woods, or is it a mansion maybe on top of the hill overseeing a small city, and you go to the city first and then you go to the mansion? This is a tool. It's just giving you information. You can use whatever outside resources you want to help name these different places. Jay's very good at creating products that just give us spark words and inspiration to play our games and unfold our adventure as we're running through them. So, great thing. I'm going to put a link to the Kickstarter again in the description. If this is something you think you might be interested in, please go check it out. This Oracle deck is just one part of a larger Kickstarter. The other part of the Kickstarter is a map book, which is spiral bound, which you can lay out. Go check out the Kickstarter. I'm backing it because I really like the products that Jay puts out. I think this is a great tool for us to use with telling our adventures and just making setup of our games a little bit easier, where I can just lay out the cards, figure out where my character is going to start, look at the prompts, and just start playing my game. I like that. That's something that is missing in a lot of games, where I'm having to kind of go to charts and tables and start generating a bunch of things. This does that for me, giving me my prompt words, giving me my quest, everything I need, all just in a few cards that I'm laying out on the table. That was my overview of the Overland Oracle. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comment section. I'll try to answer the questions the best I can. If I'm not able to answer them, I'll reach out to Jay over at Shieldice Studios and try to get clarification. But it's a pretty simple, straightforward system, which Jay creates a lot of these straightforward tools that we can use in our games just to make our sessions a lot more enjoyable. Thank you for watching and have a great day. Bye.